Now, tonight, Vladimir Putin continues to wage a bloody crackdown on the sovereign country of Ukraine. And get this, 900 civilian bodies were recently found dead in and around Kyiv, the capital, including in mass graves and in the rubble, as the innocent Ukrainian people continue to be slaughtered on a massive scale. It's just like I've been saying, there needs to be a simple rule in life. If you invade a sovereign nation, you forfeit your right to lead any country, and you should forfeit your right to live. Period. It's why we need to provide Ukraine with all the weapons and support that they need so they can win this war. By the way, President Zelensky has been clear. He'd like Biden to do more. I've been very clear. No U.S. troops on the ground and no more endless politicized wars. You know, the politicians, they get all gung-ho, charged up. They start these wars. They don't fight to win the war. They politicize the war, and then it ends up, well, being a disastrous pullout like the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. According to Democrat Chris Coons of Delaware, he is now pushing to put U.S. forces on the ground in Ukraine. This is an awful idea. This cannot happen. Take a look.
In some public remarks this week, you said the country needs to talk about when it might be willing to send troops to Ukraine. You said if the answer is never, then we are inviting another level of escalation and brutality by Putin. Are you arguing that President Biden was wrong when he said he would not send troops to Ukraine? Are you asking him to set a red line?
Margaret, I think those of us in Congress who have a critical role in setting foreign policy and in advising the president in terms of his decisions as commander-in-chief need to look clearly at the level of brutality. This is a moment of enormous challenge for all of us.
Now, we need to learn the lessons from successes in the past, like the Reagan doctrine, the Trump doctrine, peace through strength, targeted strikes on our worst enemies. That's how Trump obliterated the ISIS caliphate, took out Baghdadi and Soleimani and the al-Qaeda leader in Yemen. Also tonight, Montana Senator Steve Daines is the first U.S. senator to visit Ukraine. He saw firsthand the mass graves in Bucha, and he joins us now to explain. Senator, I did see some of the footage you took, and I think you shared it with my team. We'll put it up on the screen. But I just want you, in your own words, to tell people what you saw on the ground while there.
Sean, these are images that nobody should ever have to see in their lifetime. I was taken from Kyiv up to Bucha. It's about 20 miles outside of Kyiv. As we were getting close to Bucha, you could see the brutality of the Russians leveling these residential complexes, small homes, apartment complexes. This is where women, children, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas were just living their lives, and then they were brutally murdered by the Russians. We stepped onto some rubble. I reached down and picked up a little child's toy. Sean, I'm a father of 4. We have 3 grandchildren. There's probably some child that was playing with that toy at the moment when that tank blasted their house and killed the family. But then we were taken to the shallow graves. These graves contain hundreds of innocent civilians. This is graves full of women, of children. These were not soldiers. These were civilians. These were innocents, grandmas and grandpas. And were taken right to the edge of the graves. You could watch the investigators exhuming the bodies, shovel by shovel, taking the dirt out, pulling these black plastic bags out, taking them over to a tent where then they were opening up the plastic bags and examining the bodies and looking for a cause of death. They opened a bag up. They asked me just to take a glimpse, a brief look at it. I could see a bullet wound in the back of the head of a man. I saw the body of a woman in one of the bags. Sean, it is brutal. These are war crimes. And it was very important, I believe, to have a U.S. official on the ground. Do you realize, Sean, there have been officials, prime ministers and presidents from 10 different countries have gone to Ukraine. There was noticeable absence. Nobody from the United States, in terms of the United States elected official or appointed official in cabinet, has been there. I thought it was important to make that journey. It was a harrowing journey, Sean. I was escorted by actually Ukrainian pastors who got me across the border. I walked across the border, got in a car, We took a train from Lviv to Kyiv. It took about 9 hours by train during the night. That was last Wednesday night. I arrived in Kyiv Thursday morning. But the gentleman that was escorting me is a former member of parliament of Ukraine, also a leader in the faith movement in Ukraine. He said, Senator, this train may take 7 hours. It might take 9 hours to get to Kyiv because there'll be missile activity tonight as we travel across Ukraine. And the conductor of the train will be slowing down, sometimes stopping, sometimes making moves, rerouting because of the missiles. But I was so grateful to be on that train, to get to Kyiv, and to stand with the Ukrainians and see firsthand what's going on with the brutality of the Russians.
So President Zelensky accused world leaders of empty rhetoric in saying never again to genocide. And it's been said many times. Is he right? Because it sounds right to me.
Listen, these are atrocities that have been committed that are unimaginable. We were talking about this with some of the police officers who were standing there with us in Bucha and the side of that shallow grave. And they told me Ukrainians will never bury somebody with their hands tied behind their backs. But these members of the Bucha community were killed with their hands tied behind their backs. They were executed. And that police officer, by the way, I want to show you something, Sean. He has a 7-year-old daughter. He showed me a picture of his daughter. He's very proud of her. And with tears in his eyes, he said, my daughter wanted to have this wristband. She made it for you. It's of Ukrainian colors. She wants to thank you for coming to Ukraine. And she made these for the police officers there who are faced with the terrible task of accounting for these members of their community that were brutally butchered by the Russians.
All the West, NATO, Western Europe needs to do two things. One, provide Zelensky and Ukraine the weaponry to win the war. They're willing to fight, but they don't need our boots on the ground. Give them the weapons and stop putting $1 billion into Putin's pocket every day by Western Europe importing Russian oil and gas. Senator, I know it's hard to describe what you've seen. The world needs to hear it. I'm glad you went. Thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you for being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.